and welcome back to Grace for Her. And today's episode is Grace to Embrace. And I hope this does not end up becoming an emotional episode for me. And the reason why I say that is because what I'm talking about embracing is embracing who you are. I know today we do a lot about or talk a lot about being authentically you and being unapologetic and just, embracing, be you. Like we have all these new sayings and slogans now. And I want to say that it's one thing to say it, it's another to believe and to act upon it. And I struggle with that sometimes, really embracing myself. And as a mother, it is so interesting because I believe that God blesses us with children to show us ourselves. And in both of my kids, I can see some hesitation that they have with just being who they are everywhere they are, or everywhere they go. And it's not about necessarily pretending to be somebody else, because I don't see them do that, but I do see them, and I do know for a fact in myself that I hide things about myself. Now, whether a person thinks that you hiding the real you from other people is pretending, that would be a debate, I guess. I don't know. But for me, it's not that I change who I am around people, but I do hide things about me because I don't know how they will truly accept it. And I know that comes from childhood trauma. And I'm very grateful that over the past 4 years, I have been in therapy. I want to be transparent and honest. I'm not currently in therapy with the whole transition and everything. I will need to find a new therapist up here because I started off going back to therapy using the text, and then I started going in person. And so now with the move, I need to decide, do I want to go back to text or do I want to go back to in person? And so anyways, but through the past 4 years of being in therapy, I have been able to identify a lot of things that resonated, or not resonated, but kind of was tied to experiences that I had in my childhood. And one of the things that I realized is that as a child, I wasn't always fully accepted. I was tolerated. And if you've ever been tolerated or you've ever experienced the difference between acceptance and toleration, and let me not speak for you, let me just speak for myself. For me, I think there's a vast difference. And I would rather have someone tell me that they don't like me or that they don't accept me than to tolerate me. Because I feel for me, to be tolerated is more hurtful, because that means that you're around people who pretend that they're okay with you being around and not telling you that they're not. And so here you are thinking you're in a safe space and you really aren't. And so I didn't learn that until much later that I was being tolerated. I give people the benefit of the doubt with a lot of things. And my friends tell me that sometimes I give them too much benefit. But I have allowed things to go on for a long period of time. And then it was after seeing a pattern or hearing things that just didn't sit well with me that I realized oh, you're really not my friend, or you really don't like me. Because how could you feel that way? Or how could you see things that way, or think that of me if you were really my friend? You really don't know me. So I know that that's contributed to how I became as an adult, where I wouldn't say that this was my mantra, but I will say that I live by it. That whole no new friends, that was me. I was good with the people who I was good with, and I'm always a friendly person, so I'll talk to you. But as far as like really engaging to try to see where a friendship can go, no, that wasn't me. I'm good. And it wasn't until my friend Michelle Shelley Ray Reynolds, I went to one of her retreats that she had. It was called the Left-Handed Ladies Retreat, and she was speaking, and she said, "Who told you that you don't need no new friends? Did Jesus tell you that? Because Jesus made friends." And so I felt so convicted by that, and what she said, that caused me to really be more intentional, to be open to new friendships. And I'm so grateful for her for that, because it has allowed me to make so many more new connections, and not just new connections, but it also allowed me to start walking in purpose, because I know that I have been gifted in the areas of teaching, as well as encouraging and being able to pour into other people. But you can't pour into other people if you're afraid to talk to them. So I'm grateful for her for opening my eyes to that, to seeing that what I was saying was not biblical, because God did not create us to be an island. He created us for fellowship, and how can I disciple if I'm afraid to talk to people? Like, you got to be friendly. You can't just go around telling people about the gospel but not being their friend. You have to first meet the need of people, being friendly, being approachable, before you can actually start even getting them to the point where they want to hear what you have to say about God. So I am grateful for her for that. And so because of that, though, not opening up, but like because of the childhood hurt that I went through, I still struggle today just really being myself. And when I say being myself, again, it's not me pretending to be somebody else, but it's allowing you to experience the fullness of Hannah. I can be goofy. I am very awkward. When I am passionate about something, I could talk about it. If I don't have anything to say, I will remain reserved. I won't say much. But if I have something to say, oh Lord, you may be there with me for a minute. My friends who do Marco Polo with me, they already know, oh, this gonna be at least a 10-minute polo from Hannah. Because if I have something to say, I have something to say. And when I don't, I don't. But there's just things that I don't fully embrace. And then even in the area of teaching, and it was a friend who had to free me. It was a couple of people who had to free me from this. First, it was my friend Melissa. She was saying to me that she was like, Hannah, however the Lord causes you to deliver it, that's how He causes you to deliver it. Like, you can't reject that. You have to embrace that and not be afraid. And she's seen me try to control it, because I feel when I'm teaching that sometimes when I get very passionate that I start yelling, and I do not like, I don't like the sound of my voice, but I don't like when I really don't like to listen to myself. And I don't like watching myself teach, because yes, I can see those moments where I get very passionate and it goes from talking assertively to yelling, and oh my gosh, it makes me cringe every time. And she was like, but that's just the way that God has you to teach. Like, that's not you doing it. Because I don't ever walk away from it and feeling like my throat hurts or anything like that. It's just honestly, I feel it in me and it just comes out and there's no stopping it. Like, I've tried to like restrain myself. And when I do, it just, I don't know, I can't explain it, but I don't like that, right? And so because of that, I try to alter who I am. And she was like, you can't do that. And then the other day I was listening to another friend, to Jacina Speaks. I don't know if you guys watch her, but she also has a podcast. And she was talking about how everything about you is useful to God. And like, he made you the way that he made you for a reason and a purpose. And it's like, a part of me knows this, but I need people like Jacina and Melissa to remind me of it, because it's like, you know this, but you're not applying it. And I don't know if I've said this already to you guys, but like, wisdom is having knowledge and applying the knowledge that you have. Like, that's wisdom. It's not just knowing a thing and not applying it. Like the word of God tells us to not just be hearers of the word, but to be doers, meaning we're supposed to be applying the word that we hear, that we receive, that we read. We're supposed to be applying it to our lives so that it can transform our lives from the inside out. And so for me to know these things, to know that I was fearfully and wonderfully made, that God made me just the way I am, made me to look the way that I look, like down to my looks, was for a purpose. Like I believe I shared it with you guys in one of the first episodes about Ehud, and I hope I'm saying his name right, but he was the second judge of Israel, and you can read about him in the book of Judges. I believe his story is in chapter 3, but the Bible was so specific in telling us that he was left-handed, and it was important to know that, because it was because he was left-handed that he was able to get the victory over the king, and essentially giving the victory to the Israelites over the Moabites. So it's just like, you being left-handed serves a purpose, okay? Like me wearing glasses serves a purpose. The way I talk, where I'm from. I was listening to my friend Tara. She has the God in Therapy with Tara Body podcast, and it was actually the episode that she does with Jacina. They were talking, and they were talking about how, you know, we're not made to be like each other. Well, let me break that down. What they were saying is that where you're from serves a purpose, because it allows you to be relatable to other people that come where you come from, so you can talk to them. You know, like, I think we spend, and I know I'm talking in general terms, but I don't want to talk for anybody else other than myself. But for me, I think a lot of times I fall into the trap of comparison, or I fall into mainly comparison, because it is comparing. Like, if I didn't see anybody else do this, right? If I didn't see anybody else doing a podcast, I would have nothing to compare it to. And so I would just come out here, set up my camera, my lights, and my mic, and start talking and just doing it based off of how I feel led to do it. And I wouldn't think anything wrong about it. Like I've mentioned to you guys before about the aesthetics, that I wasn't going to allow not having the aesthetics that I want to stop me from starting this or relaunching Grace for Her. That I wasn't going to let, you know, not having my furniture right now stop me. That everything doesn't look good, you know, that I wasn't going to let that stop me. And you know, the only reason why I would let it stop me is because there are other podcasts out there for me to compare myself to. And I can see the aesthetics that they have, or I can see the conversations that they have, or that, you know, they have more than one person, or they're talking about this topic, or they're like, I could go through all the list of things that I think I need to be doing because other people are doing it, instead of just doing what I feel led to do. And that's what I'm talking about in regards to having the grace to embrace who you are, embrace all the unique qualities that you have, all the gifts that you have, and not compare yourself to other people. And I also struggle with saying that because, right, sometimes it's not even about comparing to other people, but also just having this standard that you want for yourself, right? And I'll use body image as one. So it's, for me, it's not about necessarily losing weight, right? And hush, for some of y'all who may look at me and be like, lose weight where? Listen, it's not about losing weight. But I do want to tone. A few years back, probably back in 2016, that was the most toned that I had ever been, because I was working out consistently. I was on a very strict, I don't even want to say diet, but a lifestyle, because I'm vegan, and I've been vegan now for the past 8 years, but I was a little more strict. I've gotten a lot more lenient, not saying that I dabble in eating any meats or anything. I'm 100% vegan, but there's different types of veganism, right? There is the food conscious or health food conscious vegan, the one who's eating just the fruits and the vegetables, the organic, all that kind of stuff. But then there's some of us who partake in the processed foods. And so folks would say, oh, well, you're not a healthy vegan because you eat the processed stuff. Well, whatever. Okay. But so anyways, back then, I wasn't as lenient on eating the processed stuff. And so I was a little bit stricter on the things that I ate. So I was the most toned that I had ever been. And so now things ain't as toned as I would like them to be. And so it's about working on me to get that. And I do also have to ask myself, though, who are you doing it for? Are you trying to get toned because that's really what your heart desire is? Or are you subconsciously comparing yourself to other people and not embracing who you are right where you are? And that has been a struggle for me, because I am comparing myself to an old version of me who, yeah, the body was great, but where I was mentally and emotionally back then, that probably wasn't as great, because I have evolved, I have matured, I have developed, I've grown since then. I am a better version of Hannah in the areas of my mental and my emotional and my spiritual. And so, yeah, the physical may not be where it was then, but can you embrace the physical you now? And I get it. We always have something that we can work on, because that's where evolvement comes from. We are ever evolving. We are ever growing. We are ever developing. Like, that's what we should be doing. As long as we're living, there is more to learn. There is more to get better at. Like, if we reach the pinnacle of everything, and there's nothing more to arise to or to grow to, then what is life? If there's nothing else to learn, there's nothing else to better yourself for. If you stop growing, then that means that you're dying, because there's nothing more to accomplish or achieve, right? So I'm always going to be working on myself, but I want to get to a place where I'm working on myself for the betterment of myself, not because I think something's wrong with me per se, that I don't like this. And it's so hard to say that, because I can hear y'all saying, well, I don't like this, and so I want to learn this so I get it. What I'm saying is that I do want to fully embrace who Hannah is right now, where she is. I want to fully love her, because one, the Bible says to love one another as you love yourself. I can't love someone else if I don't know how to love me? This is where we end up abusing people, because if we abuse ourselves, if we can't even look in the mirror and tell ourselves that we love ourselves, like 100%, I know you got some flaws, girl. I know you got some things you need to work on. I know some things that you learned in therapy that you've been working on. And I love that for you. I love that you have had the knowledge to go and get the therapy, get the help that you need so that you can work on you, so you can be a better version of you. I love that for you. And I love that this is who you are right now, that you are this person who is looking to evolve and not to stay stagnant right where you are. So like, that's great, right? I want to say that to myself because I want to see myself grow. I don't want to say to myself, oh my gosh, like these flabby chicken turkey leg arms or whatever, you need to get, I don't like that. Like, I don't want to look at myself with disgust, because if I look at myself with disgust, then I'm going to look at other people with disgust and I'm not going to love them well. Like, you have to learn how to love you well in order to love others. One of the things that you learn about in loving yourself well is how you receive love, because then when other people, because when you learn how to love on you, you learn how to teach other people to love on you, right? And when you realize, oh, I got to teach you how to love me because you're trying to love me the way that you want to love me. And I appreciate that. But now let me teach you how to love me, how I receive it. And when you come into that knowledge of how you receive love, you get the light bulb or the epiphany of, well, if I need to teach people how to love me, then maybe I'm not necessarily loving other people how they receive love either. Let me learn how to love them in their love language. And that's how it goes. That's how the cycle flows. Like, but you have to learn how to love yourself first. You have to learn how to embrace who you are, because if you can't embrace who you are and you tolerate you, then you just gonna tolerate other people, and then you're going to be tolerable to others. Like, I don't want to be tolerated. I don't. Like, either accept me for who I am or don't. And then just tell me that. Like, and I don't even need to know why you don't like me, right? I've heard other people say that that's not my business. If you don't like me, that's between you and God. Like, because he created me the way that I am. And I know that I'm not a perfect person. I know that I have flaws. I know that I need him in order to walk this faith out, to walk this life out. I need him to show me the areas of my heart that need to be corrected, areas of my heart that I am not aware of, that may harbor some bitterness or some unforgiveness or some resentment. So I need him, and I need him to correct me, and I need him to wash me, and I need him to get me all the way together. So I know that I'm not a perfect person and that there are areas of improvement. But if you don't like this work of construction, because that's what we all are, essentially, we are all under construction. We are all works of construction. The Bible tells us that he continues to do a good work in us until the return of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So if God is continuing to work on us, then I have not reached the end game yet. I'm still a work in progress. But if you don't like my work in progress, that's not my fault, because I'm working on me. God is working on me. I'm allowing him to work on me. I am allowing myself to be teachable. Does that mean that I'm teachable at all times? Probably not. There are some times that I'm like, ooh, your delivery is making me not receive this. And I'm going to choose not to receive it, because that's another thing. We're going to talk about that in another episode in regards to the choices that we have, the grace for choice, because we have so many choices. We have the choice to receive the offense and take the offense, or we have the choice to ignore the offense and get the meat of the matter, the meat of whatever it is that the person did a horrible job in delivering to us. And we can acknowledge that. We can acknowledge when somebody's delivery is jacked up. Like, hey, I get what you're trying to say. And so I'm going to overlook the way you delivered it because I know what the heart of the matter is. And so I'm going to receive that. But I am going to acknowledge to you the way that you talked to me, the way that you delivered this, the way that you said this. It could have came a whole nother way if you really wanted me to receive what you had to say. You know what I'm saying? But that's, like I said, that's a whole nother episode for another time. But back to this, embracing ourselves. We have to, I strongly believe that we have to learn how to embrace the way that we were created, because one, not embracing it is a rejection to God, because we were created in his image. One. So to say to God, I don't like the way you created me, is to say that I don't like how you created me in your image. Like you should have gave me her lips. You should get, like, that's rejecting him. Okay. And two, I truly believe, because the two greatest commandments that we were given was to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, with all of our strength, with all of our soul, with all of our mind. And the second is like unto it, to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. I think in order to love our neighbor, we have to first learn how to love ourselves. We have to first learn how to embrace exactly who we are in order to love. And I feel like in order to even love God, we have to love who he created. He created me. How can I love you but hate what you created? That doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know. I can hear y'all again through the camera saying, well, if my child makes a picture that I don't like, they created it, and I can tell them I don't like that. And I guess you can. But when it comes to God, because we're created in his image, to tell him that we don't like something about ourselves is to tell him that we don't like something about him. Because we were created in his image, and he made us the way that he made us for a purpose and a reason, and for his glory. Listen, when I was, as I continued to read the Old Testament, but even in the first books of the Bible, what is referred to as the Torah, the first 5 books, as I was reading, I will say that especially when I got into Leviticus, Leviticus was a hard read, because there was so much detail in Leviticus in regards to how they were supposed to build the tabernacle, how they were supposed to sacrifice animals, how they were supposed to bring offerings. There was so much detail. And to me, some of it just seemed redundant. Like God said it over and over and over and over again. But as I was reading through it, I was also getting the revelation of God is in the details. He gives the details for a reason. He doesn't do anything by happenstance. Everything that he does is for a reason and for a purpose, and it serves, it has meaning. It's not just because. And so even with his creation of us, because he knows the plans that he has for us, because he knows what he has assigned us to do, he's like, everything about you is for a reason. Everything about you is for the assignment or assignments that I have for you. It all comes together. The way you think about things it serves a purpose, because you think about things in such a way that another person doesn't. But when the two of you come together, it's magic. It's beautiful. Like the way that you talk, people can understand. They relate to it. Maybe the way you speak is not for everybody, but it's for somebody, and for the somebodies that it's for, they need you to open up your mouth so that they can receive what you have to say. So we have to embrace these different things about us. We have to embrace how we look. We have to embrace how we speak. We have to embrace all of the unique things that make us us. I have to embrace it. I have to love Hannah right where she is, who she is, how she looks right now. If I want to change my hair color, I can. There's nothing wrong with that. But do I love me with the hair color I have right now? Because here's the other thing. I think when you are when I am so fixated on how I want to be, on who I want to become and never take the time to enjoy who she is now, never give her grace now, that when I get to this person or this version of me that I've been looking so much for, when I get there, I feel like there's always going to be something else that I want and never satisfied with what I have. And how can you be grateful for what you have if you're always looking for the next? There's some of us who never take the time to truly be present and to truly just be grateful for the things that we have right now, because we're so fixated on what we don't have or what we want to have or what we feel we should have. And it's like, but when are you ever grateful? When is enough enough? Like, if he didn't do anything else for you, could you be thankful? Could you be grateful? Could you be happy with what you have right where you are? Can I be happy with me? And that is what I am learning to do in this season. In this season where I have, in the past 2 years, right? Because I've been working for myself, running our company. For the past 2 years, I've had so much time on my hands where I could have been doing this podcast, where I could have relaunched it and been putting out content and everything. And I've had stuff to say, and I've kept saying how I was gonna do it. I even had it in my goal planning for this year. This podcast was supposed to come out in the first quarter of this year, and here it is coming out in the last month of the third quarter. And a lot of the reasons why was because I was doing a lot of comparing. A lot of the reasons why I didn't come out with this sooner was because I was afraid that I wouldn't be received. I was afraid that, oh, it's not going to do that well. You know, why do it? But why do it? I have to ask myself, are you doing this for you, Hannah? Or are you doing this because you believe this is what God is leading you to do? Because if you do it and not just do it anyway, because here's the other thing about Hannah's world. I went through all of this. This is a cycle, and we're going to talk about this too, about these cycles that we go through in life and how, you know, we are no different than the Israelites in the wilderness. I am no different than the Israelites in the wilderness. They went through the wilderness for 40 years because it took them that long to get it right. It took them that long to shed a whole generation that just wasn't willing to go and obey and do what God asked them to do. And so I too have been in my own wilderness. And here it was, I find myself just repeating the same things that I did when I first launched Hannah's World, because at first I didn't want to do it. It took the pushing of other people and the holding me accountable to launch it 4 years ago. And I did, but nobody knew about Hannah's World. That's the sad thing. Nobody really knew about it because I wasn't marketing it. I wasn't creating reels from my podcast and putting it out there, directing people to go to the YouTube channel and watch the full version. I wasn't doing that. Every now and again, I would do a reel, or every now and again I would advertise like, oh, new episode dropping today or whatever, but I wasn't consistent. And this was another thing that, please go watch God in Therapy with Tara Body. I believe it's episode 10. What is the episode called? It's called Go Ye, when the weight becomes a weight. Please go and watch that episode, because that episode was so freeing to me that has also pushed me into relaunching this again, because they were talking about how we, sometimes the weight of the assignment, when we wait, WAIT, when we wait to do something, the assignment becomes a weight, WEIGHT. It becomes heavy because you're supposed to be doing something. You're supposed to be putting something out there. You're supposed to give birth to something that God has placed on the inside of you, and you don't do it. And so it becomes this heavy thing because you're convicted, because you're walking in disobedience. I have been walking in disobedience. I know that I should have done this, but I was so concerned about how it was going to be received, how it was going to compare to other people, concerned about the wrong things. If God has told you to do it and leave it up to Him. It is not my responsibility how this turns out. It's my responsibility to just do it and do it well. And that's what I was getting to. I wasn't producing it. I wasn't putting it out there. But now this time, oh, y'all gonna see this. I'm gonna create reels. You gonna see the reels from it. It's gonna be out there. You gonna know that Grace for Her is here for you to listen to. And however God produces this and allows fruit to come from it, is how He allows to do it. But at least this time around, I can say, okay, God, I am embracing where I am. I'm embracing that this is a fresh start. I'm restarting. I'm relaunching. These are humble beginnings, and I'm embracing all of it. And I am going to do my best to be obedient this time and do exactly what you have called me to do, so that I can see the fruit. I can see the provisions that you have, because God has provisions for us. And this will be another episode too. God has provisions for us, but it's for us to go and take it. Right? We have to take it. He told the children of Israel, this is the land that I'm putting before you. Go and possess the land. There's a couple of things out there that God has given us. He's told us to go and possess it, and we haven't, because we've been too afraid to do it. We haven't stepped out because we feel like we don't have it all together yet, that, we haven't embraced who we are. No, I don't have it all together, and I won't ever have it all together, but with God, I will have it together. I can't do this by myself. It has to be with Him. This is with Him. So I hope you guys got something out of today's episode. It is always my prayer that you do. And my takeaway is embrace you. Embrace exactly who you are, who God has created you to be, so that you can go out and do the things that He has called you to do, because He has provision where He is guiding you. But if you don't go out, you can't ever possess the land. All right, until next time, peace out, world.